All right, let's talk about the second game on Sunday. It is the Bills and the Chiefs. We are sitting at 3 across the board in favor of the Chiefs. 53.5, 54 is your total. If you want 53.5, it's at FanDuel. You want 54, DraftKings points bet. You can find the 53.5 at BetMGM as well. The Bills get here in, let's call it what it was, a pretty tough game where Josh Allen, I think, was less efficient than we've seen all year. The wins were much higher than people let on to us. It was supposed to be kind of mild wins, but you could see the goalpost kind of swaying in that game. And anytime that you have the wins in that type of level with a pass heavy team like the Bills, there's going to be some drop off in production. So still able to get the win, not really going to hold a ton against them in that one. Of course, the Chiefs, we know the story there. Patrick Mahomes leaves with the concussion. They convert a huge, well, it was 3rd and 14. They get 13 rushing yards by Chad Henne, take the 4th and 1, and go ahead and convert the 4th and 1, which gets them to, I'm convinced that if the Browns get the ball back right there, they were going to win the game, that the Chiefs were going home. Brett, I know you were really rooting for the Browns to get the ball back so that you would be facing the Browns this week in a home game as opposed to a road game against the Chiefs. This number, guys, is assuming that Patrick Mahomes is going to play. We saw some books open this as Bills as favorites because of the question mark around Patrick Mahomes, and then everyone just bet it as if Patrick Mahomes was going to play. Got this thing all the way to 3.5 at one point. It is still sitting at 3 across the board right now. That same conversation I had with Johnny Avello, where he told me that only 5% of the money has come in so far this week, also told me, should Patrick Mahomes get ruled out, that this would move to Bills -4. So we would see a 7-point swing here over at their shop anyway, as far as should Patrick Mahomes get ruled out. Brett, we're going to assume Mahomes is playing. He's been out there practicing, practice with a helmet on Thursday. I mean, they can't, it's not up to the Chiefs. It's not up to Patrick Mahomes. It's up to a third party. So they can't rule him in, but all signs point to him being in. So we're just going to take this handicap as if Patrick Mahomes is going to play. We can throw in some caveats at the end if for whatever he gets miraculously ruled out or whatever. So we'll go with this as if he is going to play. You look at the game you look at this first matchup between these two teams, and I'm sure this is your team, so I'm sure you remember it very well. Josh Allen's worst game of the season, just like we got Aaron Rodgers' worst game of the season. Josh Allen goes 14-27, 122 yards. Now he did add in 42 rush yards on the ground, but obviously, this guy's throwing in the upper 280s in just about every single game this year. Goes for 122 here against the Chiefs. He was under pressure on 17 of his 31 dropbacks. I think that is the very big difference in this game compared to a lot of the other ones. But, you can tell us better than anybody. A lot has changed for this Bills team since that game, and a lot has changed, I think, even on the Chiefs side as well.
Yeah, definitely. And this was such a weird game. The Chiefs game planned so well for this one. They took advantage of the injuries and the weaknesses on this Bills defense and just rammed CEH down their throats. I think 26 times, and completely took the air out of the Bills offense right from the get go.
I should mention also it was in a huge downpour as well.
Yeah,
Like it was I know we never use this word unless we're talking about rain, but it was torrential rain that was coming down. Like nothing else is torrential in life other than rain, but the torrential rain was coming down in that game as well. So something else that just made that game weird.
yeah, and it was just a coaching masterpiece by Reed. I mean, that's really what it came down to, and it was a good example of we talk about it a lot. Just there's so many different ways the Chiefs can beat you, and they showed it. This was the best example of the season. They didn't even really use Patrick Mahomes at all. They just exploited the Bills the Bills' inefficiencies on defense by running the football, and it was. I mean, that game was a roll show. Was it 466 yards to 220? I mean, the game was not as close as the final score showed. So, what can you take away from that? I think for me, mostly just game planning, how Reed approached that game far better than the Bills did. that for me, and that's something I'm taking into this game as well too, is coaching. As good as McDermott and Dable have been this year, as good as Leslie Frazier game plan for the game last week on defense, this is still Andy Reid in an AFC Championship game where he's been before, and that to me is a huge advantage. So that, yeah, I think the biggest takeaway from that first game is just how good Reid game plan for the Bills.
Brad, I'm gonna on the flip side of that, I actually think that the Bills probably should employ the same strategy here and see if it just works a little bit better. I mean, yes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 26 carries, 161 yards, but because of the way that the Bills went about this, they had 6 or fewer guys in the box on 64% of the plays in that game. They're daring you to run the ball. They did, because the Chiefs then get out of what they do best, which is obviously utilizing Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. The Chiefs ran the ball 58% of the time on first and second down in that game, which, as we know, running the ball on early downs, especially when you're Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, is not the most efficient way to go about the offense. Now, the Bills were without Matt Milano in that game. They were not able to stop the rush game. And if you let the other team run and they can get 7 yards to carry every time, well, then it's the strategy is not going to work out. But I think that if you're the Bills, at least early in this game, I think you try to stick to that same deal. If you can keep Patrick Mahomes from looking at Tyreek Hill and keep him from looking at Mahomes at Kelce, and if Andy Reid is going to kind of fall for it in air quotes here and just run it into the line a ton, I would at least, if I'm the Bills, go about it that way yet again.
Yes, I exactly agree, and I think they will do it again. They held them to 26 points, and I think everyone would agree to beat the Chiefs, you have to score 30. Allen played badly, but I don't think it was a bad defensive game plan. What was weird about that game is that they only had, I think it was four defensive tackles active. I remember there was because it was a Tuesday night, wasn't it, or Monday afternoon? Yeah. It was a weird game time, and they late scratched 2 of their defensive tackles who normally start, and then they came out with this game plan where you need some bodies up front. You can leave 6 in the box, but you still need some heavy men up front. So I thought that was very strange. So you would assume that I think they will do the same again, but they should have better success stopping the run. I don't think they're going to give up another 250 yards or whatever it was. And I think it's correct that the way to play Mahomes is too deep and no blitzing. So you mentioned that was the way they played it, but it was the first time that a team hasn't blitzed at all since at least 2016, which is as far back as next gen stats go. And then they only played 4 snaps of man coverage as well. So it wasn't just we're gonna play zone, 2 deep zone. That's all we're gonna play. Which you would think they'll mix up a little bit more just to confuse him. So Mahomes this year against single high safety coverage, first in the NFL in EPA per play. Against 2 deep safeties, he's 15th in the NFL in EPA per play. Against blitzes, first in the NFL EPA per play. Against non-blitzes, 9th in the NFL in EPA per play. So I think the game plan is correct. I think 2 deep safeties play lots of zone and make them beat you that way. So I think we get more of that. It's also worth noting, along with the defensive tackles that the Bills didn't have, they didn't have Matt Milano, who's he's a key linebacker. He's very good in coverage as well. He's good against the run. He'll be back. I do think the Bills will have better success stopping them this time around.
So, Brett, when we take a look at this, I mean, if unlike the first game where it's just a whole bunch of kind of strengths on strengths, right? I mean, we're kind of looking like, okay, something's got to give here, strength on strength on strength on strength. Well, there are some, when we kind of look at the different weaknesses of these teams, there is kind of a strength on weakness deal here, and it's just not something that we really look at a ton. And that's the fact that, look, the Bills just don't run the ball very much. But when they do run, they've actually been fairly efficient. I mean, Singletary averages 4.5 yards a carry on the season. And there have been times this year where the Bills have looked really competent and really good running the ball. We understand that Kansas City has the 31st ranked rush defense DVOA. Pro Football Focus kind of agrees here, has them down at 23rd rush defense in the NFL. Do you think that, a team that really and truly last week didn't run an actual true run play until into the second quarter. Do you think they can actually get to a point where they say, okay, look, if your obvious weakness is the run defense, and we're pretty okay at it when we actually commit to doing that, do you think we'll see that? Or do you think this is McDermott and Dable just saying, you know what, look, we're a passing team. We're going to do what we do come hell or high water?
Yeah, I don't see this being a Devin Singletary game. I just don't. That's just not how this Bills I mean, look, maybe they've metagamed this the entire season. All of a sudden, they just start cramming Devin Singletary into the line, 20 plus times. I don't see it here. This offense has been so successful. The play action, it's just hilarious. They just run so much play action, but never run the football. But it always works. So, I mean, I can't see them getting away from that in this spot. They know, and like you said, they have to score points in this game. They're not going to do that by running the football with Devin Singletary.
Brad, everyone's talking about the concussion on for the Chiefs and with Patrick Mahomes. And I'm actually more worried about the fact that I saw him hobbling around out there with his foot injury, like all over the field. And, everyone's like, yeah, I mean, the concussion's the only thing that's going to keep him out of the game if they don't rule him in the game. But I'm more worried about the foot thing going on with Patrick Mahomes, because if you don't have, 100% Patrick Mahomes doing all of these things that Patrick Mahomes does, that is a huge, huge, huge downgrade to this Chiefs offense. I mean, a lot of this stuff, we remember, there's a lot of the stuff that he does inside the pocket, but really the reason this offense is so successful is Patrick Mahomes extending plays, the kind of, backyard football plays that end up working out where he's scrambling, he's outside of the pocket, he fakes like he's going to run, he ends up hucking the ball 40 yards down the field to some receiver that saw he's scrambling and stuff. So, a lot of this offense is kind of predicated on him being mobile and him being able to feel pressure and get out of there and create plays and extend plays. And so I have not heard a ton of people talking about the foot. Everyone's talking about the concussion. And I'm like, guys, this is a foot injury for a dude that needs to be mobile. This is what we should be focusing on.
Yeah, they said on the broadcast last week, Mahomes, I think, leads the entire NFL in first down conversions on third and long, or first down runs on third and long. And it's not just the runs, as you said, he can get out the pocket and chuck deep to Tyreek. I thought that would be a good way to get against the Chiefs. But the Twitter account, I think yesterday, released a photo of Mahomes in practice, I think rolling out to his left, just running along perfectly fine and throwing a dart. So he looks fine to me, essentially. And obviously he's not numbed up there. And if there is an issue, you would assume on Sunday he's going to be shot full of all the Toradol in Kansas City. Right. So I did think it was going to be an issue, but looking at that, a snapshot, by the way he was moving, suggested it's not that bad. And so I'm kind of assuming he's 95 to 100% basically.
Has anybody on this podcast had turf toe before?
I have not. I haven't
either. I haven't. No. So it's hard for me to I don't know what this does to him. I have no idea.
We've seen guys miss multiple games with turf toe before. Yeah.
And he was limping around. Yeah. He looked, he was hobbling around like he lost his walking stick on Sunday. But
I do wonder if he's kind of one weird hit away from being kind of that hobbling guy again, and so so something to consider with that as well. All right, Brett, let's what's that, Brad?
So I was going to say that's what happened last year when he dislocated his kneecap, because he was already banged up. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he had some sort of lower body injury, and then I think he went for another sneak or something, and that's when the kneecap went. So, and that's kind of what we saw on Sunday again, where you had one injury and it, the way you move or it just one seems to lead to the other. So it's definitely a non-zero chance he gets banged up further.
All right, Brett, let's get your kind of breakdown of the game here. How do you see this game, flowing? How do you see the strategy from both sides? And do you have any bets? Are you leaning any ways? And what's going on with your account?
It's an incredibly difficult cap here on Friday morning. We're assuming that Patrick Mahomes plays, and that's certainly baked into the market right now. It's at 3.5. And if we do know that Mahomes is in, it'll probably move to 4.5. And if he's out, like you said, it's going to be well north of 3 in favor of Buffalo. So That's a huge discrepancy based on one player who just happens to be the most important player in the league. I I have to lean KC here. I just think they're being undervalued.
Shocker.
I know.
You've only gone against your team every single week for the last. Yeah, I know. It's shocker.
And it's gone really
an
well.
emotional hedge.
It's
an
gone really well
emotional
for
hedge.
me. I think they've covered in 9 of the last 10, and I've been against them every single week. But it's some of that just might be it's because I'm so close to it. Like all season, I'm just I'm consuming news and content around this team, and it's just overload, and it sends my head in 1,000 different directions throughout the year. And I try to filter out all of it, but that's gotten me into trouble, as evidenced by the number of times that I've bet against them, and they've been the best team against the spread all season long. But yeah, I do think because KC is underperformed against the market this year, that there is value on this team. I can't even remember the last time KC covered a spread. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they have not covered huge numbers this year.
Mm-hmm.
Even last week in a playoff game, they mostly dominated that game against Cleveland. They got sleepy in the red zone. They missed several opportunities there. Won the game, but again, failed to cover the spread. That's happened so many times this year. And we talk all year about teams that run above expectation and win games they don't deserve to win, which results in a really good ATS record. I don't know what to make of KC when it comes to that. Like they're excellent in these high leverage situations, which I talked about last week, and a lot of that has to do with coaching. Even more of it has to do with the greatness of Mahomes. And now we're finally looking at a short spread here, right on the key number, and it is extremely enticing to get KC at this price because within the market, I see this as an opportunity to buy low on KC and sell high on Buffalo. Sell high in Buffalo again. I mean, maybe they're still being priced appropriately. I don't know, but I mean, I see this as a good buy low spot on Mahomes, assuming he is good to go. But it's really tough because we don't know. And like I'm with you guys, I'm worried about the turf toe just as much as the concussion. So this is a really tough cap.
Brad, I will, to pull back the curtain here, this thing, when it started running here in Vegas, one of the shops, it ran all the way to 3.5. When it got to 3.5, that was just too much for me. I took a big piece of the Bills at 3.5. Because again, the status of Mahomes to me, I know no matter what, he's not going to be 100%. So if you're going to give me 3.5 on the Bills with a guy that I know, at least no matter what, even if he plays, I mean, there's still the outside chance he doesn't play. And I know at least for sure there's going to be a foot injury involved here. I'm getting a less than 100% guy in this game that I expect to be pretty tightly contested, actually. And so I took the 3.5. I feel fine taking the 3.5. You and I, Brett can't do it because no mobile over there. But you and I can watch a couple of drives, right? And we can figure out if this foot thing looks worse on Patrick Mahomes than we even consider, right? Like, I think this is an awesome in-game betting game as well, because we'll be able to see with our eyes real quick, because trust me, they'll point it out. If he's hobbling around out there, if he's limping around, like, they are going to let us know. And that, I think, presents an in-game opportunity for us, as if you have in-game betting in your jurisdiction.
Yep. You'll have to be quick, because if the broadcasters are pointing out, then you better get on your phone quick. So yeah, I've not bet the game yet, partially because of that uncertainty. So yeah, I do think a fully healthy Mahomes, I think the line is probably 3.5 would be fair. Because they do have the extra rest. Obviously, they had week 17 off. They had the bye. They played one game in the last month, really. Whereas the Bills have been, they've been going for a while now. They do have the home field fans, so I think you probably give them 2 for home field. So, you add it all together. This line is only saying the Chiefs are a point better than the Bills, and yeah, it's tough to say with a perfectly healthy Mahomes that's true, because we know just how high the upside is. So I think my favourite angle here is probably the Bills to score points. I'm looking at a team total around 24.5, 25.5, and I like them to go over that. So the reasons why: one, basically, I would say this is a top 3 offense by passing DVOA, top 5 by total DVOA. So I guess is there any reason I don't want to bet them to go over a low team total? And the first matchup, the Chiefs did get the blitzes away. They pressured Allen on half of the snaps he faced there, so they really messed him up with blitzes. But John Feliciano, the right guard, was missing there, and his role is kind of like the center in this offense. He works out a lot of the protections, which way to slide the line to pick up the blitz. So otherwise, this line is second in pass block win rate this year, while the Chiefs are 18th in pass rush win rate. So I can see them keeping Allen pretty clean here. Now the Chiefs, they've got two corners on the injury report, Snead and Breland with a concussion, so he might well miss. And against a team that can go like 5 deep on the outside, I think that's a bit of a mismatch as well. And then the Chiefs also, they run a lot of man, and Allen has absolutely smashed man this year, partially because he's got all those receivers and partially he can pull it down and run. So put it all together, I think just get rid of the uncertainty about Mahomes and his toe, and just back the Bills to do what they've done literally all season long and just score points against the defense, which is like, it's down to 28th in defensive DVOA in the second half of the year. So it's not playing that well. It's got banged up corners. The pass rush is going up against an elite offensive line. So yeah, I really don't see why the Bills shouldn't get to 28 plus here.
Yeah, so I'm, look, I'm like I said, I'm on the Bills. I like them a lot here at 3.5, which I was able to get. If it gets back to 3.5, I might add on more. It's just it's a spot here. I like this offense to score points against this Chiefs defense. And here's the other thing for me is, if there is even a chance that Mahomes is not what he typically is. Say you get one extra drive that they don't score. Say you get, one extra drive that Mahomes isn't able to make that play or make that pass. I expect this Bills team to go to move the ball and go up and down the field. And I expect them to score. And it might be just enough for this to be tipping in the Bills' favor, because that one extra possession could mean everything to me. I'm going to have a sprinkle on the Bills money line on this game as well. From a prop standpoint, the books have gotten just absolutely absurd on Travis Kelce. At FanDuel, his receiving prop is 96.5. And look, I understand that the guy is like very, very good and one of the best at it, but like, 100-yard receiving prop, you just auto take the under. It's just an auto fade. So, don't follow me on that one. I'm standing for my principles here. If you're going to put a 100-yard receiving prop on a tight end, I'm betting the under on that every single time. Any thoughts real quick, guys, on the total in this one? I don't think we do because of the uncertainty, right? I mean, it's just like, Brad, I know you said that you don't want to play the full total. You'd rather just play the Bills because, I mean, we don't really know what we're getting from the Chiefs, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think both teams are going to sit in this cover 2 shell. Mm. So, we could just get a lot of 12-play scoring drives. And, if two of them go for a field goal instead of a touchdown, then you're up against it. So no play on the full game total for me.
Brett, we're with you, man. I'm going to be financially invested with you, and then I will also be emotionally invested with you. Hope your team gets there, my friend. Guys, we have the full written breakdowns over at the lines, over at the play picks as well. If you're listening to this on audio, head over to the YouTube page. That is youtube.com/playpicks, and you can watch the videos of everything that we've done, and we'll continue to do throughout the course of the Super Bowl and the NBA season as well. For Brett, for Brad, I'm Matt. See you guys next week.